Hi everyone, happy afternoon and thanks for joining us. My name is Caitlin Jones with KC SourceLink and Missouri SourceLink. As you know, there are tons of resources to help you grow your business throughout the region. Feel free to look me up in the attendees tab or let's meet up in the hallway if you want to learn more. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Erin Zimmerman to present Grow Your Mutually Supportive Ecosystem to Grow Your Business. Thanks so much, Erin, and take it away.
Hello, everyone. Please let me know if at any point you cannot hear me or anything like that. I'm Erin Zimmerman, the owner of Easy Visibility, where I'm a visibility strategist, video, and podcast producer. I help marginalized voices create fun, sustainable action plans to grow their brands and make a name for themselves to be heard and seen with ease. So just real quick before we get started, I do in the files section below, if you are on FeedLoop currently, there is a document called the 5 Steps to Becoming Easily Visible. It has my info and the link to schedule a no sale visibility call. I will not try to sell anything to you. So if it interests you after the fact and you want to connect further, you can do that through that document in the files section of the 5 Steps to Becoming Easily Visible. Today, we're going to be talking about growing your mutually supportive ecosystem. So the little spiel that I give on this is, how do you grow a business if you're an introvert, small towner, or during a pandemic? Find a mutually supportive community to bounce ideas off of, grow with, and even collaborate with. In this workshop, explore best practices to grow a truly supportive network to be used online and in person, because at some point we will be in person together again. I promise, friends, I promise. But as a reminder, one size does not fit all when it comes to best business practices, but you will leave with tips to get you started on your personalized journey. So I really want you to take what sticks and what feels good for you and move forward with that in small steps. And I was going to say as quickly as possible, but sometimes small steps aren't quick. But if they're in smaller steps, they will go a little more quickly than if you just say, find community. And that is your one to-do, thing on your to-do list. Also, if you have any questions during this presentation, you can throw them into the chat, or you can save them until the end, where I plan on having a little bit of time for Q&A. And if questions come up during or after and you don't have time to ask them right now, that's totally fine. Or if you don't want to ask them in front of other people, that's totally fine. You can meet me in the hallway inside of FeedLoop, or you can contact me. Again, that file that is attached in the files section has my contact information. And with that, so I've been talking a lot recently about my sharing is caring philosophy, because I have identified myself as a connector and a simplifier in life and in business. I naturally tend to share things and people and organizations and businesses that I truly, deeply believe could be life-changing for other folks as well, and that I would back 1000%. So I love to share different philosophies from folks who, for me personally and for my business, all of our, it aligns, like personally and business-wise, all of my ideals and values align on both fronts. So not only do I share the work of my friends, but a lot of my collaborative relationships started in this way of sharing is caring. So what I tend to do naturally has really helped me to get to where I am with a mutually supportive ecosystem around me. And if you'd like to take a stab at it, I think you can surround yourself with that community you yearn for as well. Yes, even in COVID times. So I'm going to give you a few steps. These do not, again, they do not have to be taken in order. You may skip, 3 out of 6 of these steps. You may only want to do one of them. That's totally fine. It is however you feel best in growing your own community or finding your community, because you do not have to grow your own. And I'll talk about that a bit in a moment. So, number one, you want to reframe your mindset and positioning. So you might be in selling mode, like when you go into social situations, especially networking events. Don't you love the term networking? with new people, you want to talk about you and what you are doing and try and get people to buy into you and your product. And I get that. It's kind of how we're introduced into these networking meetup models, is like, okay, go in with your card. And basically, I mean, sometimes people say sell, 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 but when you go in with a card, you want to push your cards, right? You want to use those cards that you bought. But if you step back and reframe it to, I am here to listen, I'm here to offer advice and solutions when asked, but mostly to listen and make real connections. So why would you want to do this? You aren't surrounding yourself with mutually supportive community to sell. I mean, eventually that's part of it. But the focus is that you're inviting people into your space to take energy, but also give energy back, to challenge you, to support you, to give advice when you ask, to point you to life improving things. And you are listening to what their needs are, what they like, etc., so you can help connect them as well. And sometimes you will be connecting them to something that you have to offer. And other times, the majority of the time, you will be connecting them with people, organizations, businesses, things that will benefit them outside of what you have to offer. And that may seem contradictory, but when it comes to really aligning your values, your personal values and your business values, this is a huge thing. And if you want that mutual support in the communities that you are aligning with or building, it's a huge thing there as well. So again, step number 1 is to reframe your mindset and positioning. And actually I'm going to reframe this. These aren't steps. They are just what I have done. So I'm not going to say steps as much as possible anymore. Ignore that I said steps. They are just points of reference, things that I have found have worked really well for me and that I'm sharing with you today. Number 2, search for groups and people. So you can do a Google search, you can do a Facebook search, you can do whatever it is that you need to do to find your people. Index in your brain or in your saved posts or in your bookmarks or in a file on your desktop, Google Drive, wherever you need to index. They can be personal values and are business related that you are searching with. So for example, people who fill gaps in your knowledge and or are like-minded and or have awesome business practices and philosophies. Those are the types of things that you want to search. And I, early in my career, in my entrepreneurship path, had a lot of success in doing this in Facebook groups. So I would kind of follow a trail of Facebook groups. So for example, we have the awesome local GEWKC Facebook group that I am a part of. And so if I were jumping into the entrepreneurial space right now, and that was the first step, I would be interactive in there and I would pay attention to the posts, which I do anyway. But I mean, if I were brand new and really seeking my community, that's a good first step. Paying attention to the posts, seeing what people are talking about, helping folks out where they're asking for help, but also seeing where those folks that I'm connecting with the most are interacting online. And so that's a great way to do it, is through Facebook groups, but also through things like Instagram posts if you're more active on Instagram. I love seeing what my other friends are sharing. Collaborators, friends, people like that, what they're sharing. And it reminds me a lot of times to share things myself, but also to discover new things in people and organizations and businesses. So do that search. And that can happen all the time. It can happen once in a blue moon. If you have to schedule it, because then you'll be able to really start to figure out, like, listen, pay attention to what's going on in front of you, and start interacting and connecting from there. The next thing that I do is share, and it goes with sharing is caring. It goes with what I was just talking about in the last point of searching. This is where sharing is caring comes into place. Of course, I wrote that down and I said it. This is why I should never go off script, but it needs to start somewhere, right? So for a while, what I was doing was marking a date and time in my calendar Fridays at 3 p.m. because I use Fridays as follow-up Friday. I follow up with emails, I follow up with messages as much as possible every Friday. So I was turning Fridays into my sharing day. And I did this for a handful of months where I would share 10 posts to my Instagram stories, because that's my interaction of choice most of the time is through Instagram stories. And so I would share messages, I would share people that you should follow. Fridays at 3 o'clock, I would go through and make sure that I had those. And I'd share in between, but as long as I had it scheduled in my calendar that I was sharing, that helped me a lot in, remembering it first and making it a habit, putting it into my routine to actually share, because so often I find myself going through and being like, oh, I should give a review of this company, or, oh, I should share this person. And then it just doesn't happen if I don't schedule it in. So schedule it in, I promise, just like any other appointment, it will help. But if you want to take it a step further from sharing, make sure to let people know why you're sharing. Does this person have the most delectable smelling products? Like, I'm going to give a quick plug to my friend Brandon at Crumble Co., which is a locally owned bath and body and fragrance shop. So check that out. So do they have the most delectable smelling products? Then share one of their posts and say, hey, these are the best smelling products. They don't give me headaches. They're natural. Here's the link if you want to check them out. Does this business coach that you've been following specialize in parts of business that seem foreign to you? Do you resonate with this article at some level? Admire someone for something specific? Like, you can share their posts, but it's so much more effective when you also point out why you're sharing it. So keep that in mind as well. Even if it's a quick blurb, even if it's like, want local sustainable clothing, sustainably made, ethically made clothing, go here, and then link them. It becomes kind of a fun game. And I even have in my Instagram, I have a story highlight. And if any of you need any help setting any of these things up, let me know. I'd be happy to help you. But a story highlight with people and businesses and organizations that I share. So another thing that I do, the next step in my personal process, is reaching out. So do you admire someone? Let them know. Have an idea for a collaboration? Message them. Oh, and don't just say, you have pretty eyes. That's not productive and could come off a little weird. I don't know. Maybe I'm not even going to put a maybe in there. Don't do that. How do you expect them to respond to it? Like, seriously, I like to anticipate the response to what I'm sending. So if you're going to just say, you have pretty eyes, what is that anticipated response on your end? So when I reached out to an online business coach early in my career, I said, I love all the content you're putting out, especially around paying myself first. I'm a baby entrepreneur, so just know that when funding and timing are more aligned, I can't wait to work with you. Until then, if you have any needs in the social media / design department, please let me know. I would love to work with you. Because at the time when I first jumped off into entrepreneurship, I was a social media manager. And so I was just like, I would love to work on any projects with you if you have any need. And even sometimes if it's someone that I really, really admire and really want to work with, I'll be like, hey, let's chat. And maybe you don't know how you want to work with them or if you want to work with them, but you want to make that connection. It's super important to make sure that you're letting them know where you're coming from, that it's not sale forward connection, that you really, really want to connect with them, and then, talk with them and see where their energy is at or where their boundaries are when it comes to connecting with someone for the first time. So with that specific thing, I was actually with someone who would become a collaborator of mine, Adrienne Dorson. She messaged me back and let me know that she was running her first business retreat at a steal of a price. Like, it was super low. And I signed up that day. I flew to Colorado to stay in a house in the mountains with her and a few other entrepreneurs I had never met. And, I could say the rest is history. Now, you don't have to go that far in an initial reach out or how you respond to the initial reach out. Like, if someone says, I am a stranger and I want you to fly to this remote place in the mountains and hang out in the same house as me for a week. That may, push some boundaries for you or set off some red flags. For me, I was diving into this entrepreneurial online thing as best and as quickly as I knew how. And so that's what I did. And my husband made sure to put Life 360 on my phone at the time, so he knew where I was. Precautions are good. But you don't have to go that far, but just think of all the possibilities and just reaching out to someone and, basically stating your intentions, be transparent with it. The next thing that I do personally, again, this could be the only step you take, is dump. And what I mean by that is that part of developing these mutually supportive communities is identifying those people that are not mutually supportive, and then no longer communicating with that person or group about your business or idea. Now, I noticed about 10 years ago that I was putting a lot of effort into friendships that just weren't giving back to me. I thought I was being a better friend than they were. Like, legitimately, I would be texting them and be like, why aren't you talking to me? Let's hang out here. Let's do this like once a week. And they weren't as responsive. And I was just friending differently from these people. So I stopped putting in effort in order to step back and see how those friends wanted to be interacted with and related to. Some of them fell away easily. And, it's one of those things where maybe I'm open to friendships and collaborations coming back as long as someone hasn't wronged me, which I think I'm okay I'm low on the enemies department so far. But we'll see. We'll see after this presentation. I may make enemies out of some of y'all. Again, should never go off script because this is what happens. So some of them fell away easily. Some are seasonal friends. I find more ease in my communities and relationships now with those who are right for me, and at the times that they're right for friendships. Like, sometimes people have really busy seasons of life that can stretch for years. They can stretch for weeks. It can stretch for a minute. And if everything's right, if the friendship is right, they'll come back at some point, and that's okay. I have also identified who I can talk shop with and who is best for personal talk. Though in my life, I talk about both all of the time. So that's some place where I don't have much of a boundary. I don't think that there are taboo subjects to talk about. And I believe that I know that the personal is political. And so I talk about everything. I try to flow between all of the things. And so my collaborator friends are also my personal friends and things of that nature. It may not work like that for you, and that's totally fine. You will be able to identify that for yourself as you are figuring out your community or communities. So when it comes to family or people that you have a history with, there are some folks you just won't be able to talk business or projects with. There will be naysayers or prove it people, the people who need to see it to believe it. In my life, that person was my dad, and that's fine. Or it is my dad sometimes, he was less uncertain of me and my ability to grow my own business, and more certain that I had security, whatever that means, at my corporate job that I left in order to start my business. So he saw me as opting out of that security. And so he was more worried about me as I left to be a full-time entrepreneur. I didn't drop him. I love him. Some family you do have to drop over time, and that's okay. You'll figure it out as you go. But what I did, I realized he was not my mutually supportive community at the time. Anytime business would come up, I would just say a little bit. I wouldn't say too much and just let the conversation go in other directions. But because I lead through example, and because I'm doing pretty well now, and I have a lot of collaborations going on. Now he is more comfortable talking about it with me, and he has grown into a mutual supporter in that way. And that for me, my mutual support shows up in different ways with different people, and it'll be the same for you. Like, you offering business advice to one of your friends doesn't mean they'd offer it back, but they could be, letting you vent, or they could be just offering you a meal. They could be, it's a range of things, and you'll be able to feel pretty quickly who is mutually supportive of you in all of your endeavors, and how that works out for you. So my sixth thing, and this is going to be the same for everyone. Hopefully you all do this one. If not almost anything else, is lather, rinse, repeat. So be a connector. Don't turn away people you may see as competition. There are so many people in this world and enough business to go around. Trust me. Oh, but like take out that mindset of there's not enough. There's always enough to go around as long as we make those connections and take those opportunities and lift others up as we go. That's a super important one. Open up those lines of communication to be able to interact with, learn from, collaborate with, and innovate together. So I have a couple of additional notes before we go into the questions section of this. And remember, you can drop questions in the chat or you can unmute when we get to the Q&A. But these additional notes I feel are really, really important. And so I wanted to make sure to hit these at the end. So the first one is, as you gather your community, it will become easier and easier, I promise, because people will meet you through other community members. There will be referrals and snowballs of shares. It will feel like magic. It may not feel easy at first as you're trying new things. You may have a couple of people right now that you've identified as mutually supportive community. And maybe it's just talking with them more, listening to them more, and then getting connected with others through them. Like I said, it will feel like magic. You may think I am silly for saying that, but you'll feel it. Another note, attend networking events with the thought of who can I listen to, get to know, and refer today. I know that this is something I touched on in the very beginning, but it's so important that you shift from selling, from pushing selling to inviting listening. And that will really help you generate a community that you feel comfortable going to talk through things, to ask questions, or just to support you in whatever way you need. You aren't pushing or selling, you're inviting the right folks in. And this is a big caveat right here. Mutually supportive won't be the same for everybody. For some, it could mean supporting one another in the same ways, but there are books and philosophies like the 5 love languages for a reason. Everyone is different. Everyone is in a different season of life. And each life is a different roller coaster. To get through this, especially if you're feeling like you are giving or people are dropping off, check in. You just check in with your people. Even if they're, street friends who know nothing about your business, if it's family that you don't talk business with, if it's your business friends and collaborators or people you haven't talked with in a very long time, check in with them. I like to check in with my friends at the very least, at least once a month, especially during COVID times, because I can shoot them a text and ask them how things are going, or just send someone an I love you. Even platonic friends that you say I love you to. If you are platonic friends and you don't say I love you, maybe don't start that with a text, start that with a conversation, and then go from there. But it's a super simple way to check in and see if folks are still calibrated with you, still mutually supportive in the ways that you need, and that you are supporting them in the ways that they need, or if it's time for things to drop off, even if just for a while. Because remember, we're all on different paths, different roller coasters, different seasons of life. And that is just how it works. If you are transparent with how you feel and you're checking in with your people semi-regularly, figuring out who is going through something and who is just taking you for a ride will become so much easier. So, for example, I felt very strongly that I was being taken advantage of in a situation more recently where in a nonprofit that I was working with, I had someone from the community reach out to me and ask if I could help market something of theirs. And so I said, sure. So we pushed it out through our marketing, through our nonprofit a couple of times. But every time this person reached out to me, they were asking for something of me or putting a timeline on when they needed something from me, or telling me the ball was in my court now. And when I realized, it took me a while, but I realized that this person wasn't offering anything back, wasn't even if it was just like, hey, do you need help with anything? Or, hey, can I do anything because you shared this? Or I will make sure to share this because you have shared it. And I know I'm saying share a lot right now, but I realized that person was not my person. And once I stepped back and stopped being as responsive as I had been before, that person fell away because I was no longer helping them in the quick timeline that they expected with these expectations that they put on me. So just remember, if you take a step back and realize that you're putting expectations on other people are probably doing the same thing, not necessarily to you, but we all put our expectations from our different lenses on each other. Just take a step back and realize where you're doing that, and try to let those expectations, fall. So one other thing, you don't necessarily need to build a community from the ground up. I've tried to do that before. I actually have a Facebook group that I have not been active in. And I think I'm in a season where I'm going to be developing it more again, but I haven't been. You don't have to build a community. You can join groups and see what is the best fit for you and go from there. Some that I adore and would 1000% back. This list isn't exhaustive, and you can find them all on Facebook. You can also find them in a presence on Instagram. You've got the Brown Sugar Collective, Kansas City Women in Film and Television. And I know that sounds like it's just for women who are in film and television, but trust me, that is an amazingly supportive and connecting group for all genders in all areas, especially if you're looking at potentially bringing video into any part of your business. You've got Babe Collective, Cat Call Collective, Innovate Her KC, and the Spark by Firebrand Collective. I am not paid by any of those folks. Those are all communities that I have been active in and collaborated with. And also they have free options as well, because this is a sharing space, not a selling space here this week. So, but I do want you to know about all that is out there. And those are just local groups. So you can find groups all across the nation, all across the world that you can be a part of. That's a great, again, I feel like Facebook groups are a great jumping off point, and you can find them pretty easily in a Facebook search, but you can also find groups through Google as well. And one last reminder before I get into questions, if any of y'all have any questions, if not, if we wrap up a little early, that's totally okay. Give everyone a breather, but reminder, I do have a printout. So if you're in feed loop right now in the files section below, there is a printout. You can print it or you can just save it to your computer. It's the 5 steps to becoming easily visible. So that's additional information that I wasn't talking about today. But it has the information on how you can schedule a free no sale call with me. And it also has tips to simplify your visibility strategy, as well as links to connect with me. So, oh my gosh, yes. So this is great. Micah, it's great that you're here. I'm so happy you're here. I wish I could see your face. I need to interact with you more. Let's have a meetup soon. But Micah did say, for what it's worth, I'm a big fan and active in Kansas City Women in Film and Television. I can confirm that they are very welcoming. Well, that is wonderful. That is the group that I have been very active in for over 7 years. And there's just great. It's great. And when you find your people, also don't let, if groups say that they are, Casey Wift, if it says women in the title, just still take a look. No matter what gender you are, just take a look, especially if you're getting recommendations from folks who know you for different groups. Even if you're like, what is the name of that group doesn't resonate with me, but if it's a recommendation from someone that you know and that knows you pretty well, go ahead and give it a try. All right, that is the end of my presentation. If you have taken anything away, please drop that in the chat as well. If there's like one of your favorite things that you're taking away, if you have any questions, if there's anything that you need clarified or that maybe you think is a silly thing that I brought up, you can give me that feedback in the chat. I'd love to see it. I would love to share it with everyone. And if anyone wants to unmute and ask questions, you can do that as well. So I'm going to go into an awkward silence for just a moment and see what happens. All right. Well, I'm not getting anything more, and I know it's just 12:33, but I like to try to keep my presentations as succinct as possible. So if you have any additional questions, you can reach out to me. Again, if you go to the files section in Feed Loop, there is a printout available for you that has my contact information, ways you can connect with me on Instagram, on Facebook, etc. As well as if you have additional questions and you want to personalize it to your business, we can have a free call. The calendar link is in that document as well. But other than that, I am finished with my presentation, and feel free to, again, interact with me in FeedLoop in the hallway if you'd like. But I can't wait to see some of y'all in the rest of these presentations that are happening for the rest of the week. And thank you so much for taking the time to be here with me today.